The science story I want to get into this week isn't from a scientific paper, it's from a press release from a museum in the Netherlands. And what the museum was trying to do is get people to come to the museum. And so what they wanted to show is that there's scientific evidence that seeing these masterpieces in person is different for you than seeing posters of them, for example. And that Girl with a Pearl Earring specifically is so amazing that it stands apart compared to other art, and they can tell that scientifically. Now, they don't actually put their data through the peer review process. So it smells like science. They use scientific tools and they show some data, but it hasn't been through peer review. So you got to take all this with a grain of salt. Nonetheless, they're interesting questions and the data are interesting. So I'm going to show them to you. So what they did is they gave people these EEG, basically helmets, where people are wearing this thing that measures brain activity or brain waves. And they have eye trackers on. You can see those things that look like glasses. Those measure where your eyeball is looking, so they can see where people are drawn, where their gaze is drawn when they look at these masterpieces. And then they were, the people wearing these things were taken through the museum. They saw Girl with a Pearl Earring. They also saw a bunch of other pieces, one called The Violin Player, one called Self-Portrait, one The Anatomy Lesson of Dr. Nicholas Tulp, and View of Delft. So those are the pieces that people saw. And their brain activities measured while they did that. Then they went and saw those same pieces on posters somewhere else. And the basic take home from this is that when people see the originals, their brains light up differently. Specifically, there are two ways in which the brain activity is different that they think is important. One is has to do with brain waves at the back of the head and the parietal lobe. The alpha waves there apparently are indicative of how much attention you're spending on things. That's what they say. And then also the prefrontal cortex behind your forehead, asymmetry in the activity there is supposed to be indicative of how much a piece engages you. And so this is where the peer review process will be really helpful, because I tried looking up whether those are accurate measures, but that's something you need to become an expert on if you're going to assess. And I'm not an expert on it, so it would have been nice for them to go through peer review on this. They did not. Nonetheless, there is a difference in activity when you see the real thing versus when you see a poster. Maybe that's not surprising, but it's pretty cool that they were able to get that result. The second thing was, when you look at the Girl with a Pearl Earring, your eyeballs go around in this triangle on the face. Apparently, your gaze goes from the earring to the eye, to the mouth, to the earring, to the eye, to the mouth. Now, when I look at this heat map, it doesn't look like it goes to the mouth, it looks like it goes to the chin. So how do they measure that? Anyway, you do nonetheless move your eyeball around in that place. They argue that this creates this quote-unquote sustained attentional loop, and that you're drawn into it and you can't take your eyes off of it. And that's become sort of the basis of their whole marketing campaign that they came out of this, is that you can't take your eyes off of this thing.
You're just too good to be true. Can't take my eyes off you.
Ontdek het hele onderzoek op mauritshuis.nl/meisje.
So those are the first two pieces. Then they go and they put people in functional MRI, where they lie down in a brain scanner, look at the pieces of art, look at the brain activity, and they say from those data that people have a nice time when they see the art, that they have positive emotions and not negative ones. So anyway, it's neat that they're taking these scientific tools and that they're turning that into a marketing campaign. Of course, I would like it to be something a little bit more rigorous, but that's not their goal. Their goal is to get people to come in the door and check out the art. And really, that's probably a good idea anyway. So go check out some art, try to decide for yourself. And if you're a scientist and you study brainwaves, maybe try to do this project a little more rigorously. Anyway, that's my favorite science story this week. If you'd like to know more about this or other science stories, you should be subscribing to my newsletter. It's called The Bat Signal. Follow thebatsignal.com.